All right. Hello and welcome to our warm up for the inevitable second Pokemon Masters EX tier list. Today, we're going to start off easy with the legendary Pokemon. And I will make up the rules as I go. I've already explained to Darian how we're going to do this and what counts as a legendary in our books. And we have the full right, obviously, to exclude any Pokemon or include any Pokemon that we want. Case in point, Tropicos is added. Obviously, Tropicos is a legendary Pokemon. I don't think you guys are going to argue with that one. So we have S, A, B, C, and D tier. Real quick, Darian, do you want to do a quick jump cut? How are we going to do this? Do we want to do S to D or do we want to do it differently?
I don't really think. Are there any F tier legendaries off the top of our
Uh,
head? Anything that would
I
be
mean,
F
they
tier?
probably just end up in D, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Is
you want okay. I did say that we were gonna try and piss people off with this one. So how about this? No
let's
S.
see. No S.
We're going
No
full.
one is S tier.
We're going full American system on this. Also, the ads that you're seeing there, and I will definitely have those cut out. God, I
I mean,
hate.
yeah, you never know. This is an anime site now, so
Oh,
I'm not gonna say
God.
anything crazy.
So yeah, A, B, C, D, and F. Yeah, you're right. You're right. All right, and they also put this tier list in alphabetical order, which I really appreciate. So we're gonna start with Arceus. Now, people have told us multiple times in the comments that we do not understand Arceus. Um, we don't get why his theme is the way that it is, etc., etc. So, Darian, right off the bat, what do you think of God? What are your thoughts on
B.
God? B.
I probably B. The only thing
Yeah.
I've really liked about Arceus is in Legends Arceus, it can hold the Legend plate,
Ooh,
where whenever you use Judgment, it changes your type based on what the other Pokemon's weak against.
that's
Instead of
gross.
having to hold like a specific type plate, the legend plate. Let's say there's like a Goodra out, so it can turn into like Ground Arceus, and then maybe they'll switch to I don't know Incineroar, and it can turn into fighting just once you use it. So I mean that was cooler, but
Yeah, I like.
Arceus compared to the others just doesn't really do it for me
I
for me.
think I'm good with B because they definitely made the Pokédex in that game super cool because it's just Arceus for counting its creations basically. Um, but honestly, I think Arceus is overrated. It's
Yeah,
Legends Arceus has given it more value for sure. Both like battle wise, I'm assuming, and also just the way that the narrative goes around this Pokemon. The boss fight, having an actual boss fight against Arceus is really brought it up. Before that, I would have put it in like C. It's a Pokemon that you don't have too much of a nostalgia for, unless you grew up privileged enough to do events and stuff with Arceus, which
yeah,
most
especially
people
that
don't.
Heart Gold Soul Silver one because that one's actually really cool.
Yeah.
That one's actually pretty sick.
All right. So we have Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres. I thought this was in alphabetical order.
Mm, eh,
It almost is.
close enough.
It
It's
almost
kind of
is.
like I don't know what happened. It's like
Yeah,
is it
because we start
alphabetical
with
order for the
Arceus and
gym that it's in?
Articuno. We started with Arceus, then Articuno, and then
Is it
somewhere down
like
here we
well,
got D
Arceus is the first
H.
is
No,
God,
Reggie.
so
Yeah,
we'll
no.
put him
Yeah,
first.
it is weird. It is definitely weird. We have like Reshiram here, Zekrom. Yeah, it's weird. Okay, so we'll go base Articuno. Now, recently, you've seen on Twitter, this Pokemon's become competitively viable over the past couple months.
And the funniest thing about it is if you look at the moveset that was used at the tournament, it's the most non-competitive moveset I've ever seen on a Pokemon.
Yeah, with
But
like
it works.
yeah,
It's sheer cold, ice beam, freeze dry, and blizzard. I'm
it's
like,
so
what?
weird. So what do you
But
think
it's
of
working.
Articuno?
Looking at the list, it's gonna sound iffy. I'm thinking D tier maybe because it's
Ooh. Okay,
not
okay.
like the greatest. It's my least favorite of the legendary birds.
That's fair. I think it's my least favorite legendary birds
And
too.
but I mean, it's like I said, it's not too bad, but there's a lot of tough competition. So I
Yeah.
think maybe
All
D
right. You say D, I say
or
B,
like
so
low C.
we'll put it in C.
Okay.
Because I mean the legendary birds out of the three, this one probably does have the most interesting design in my opinion. Moltres is literally just a chicken on fire, and Zapdos is like super spiky. But you can clearly see the grace that they're trying to exude with the Articuno design. I really like the head for Articuno is probably the best out of the three in my opinion. Again, Zapdos super spiky, Moltres it's just a chicken on fire. So I I'll give it some points on that one. All right, so Zapdos. We're gonna go with Zapdos next.
I love Zapdos. It's
Just go
probably
for it.
actually one of my. Nah, when I say top 10 legends, I really like Zapdos. I'd probably in a first, probably B or C.
Yeah,
Like I
Zapdos is
said,
the best out of the three. I'm fine putting it in B. Um, I mean, it's a miracle because the other two really did not historically get to do much. It's honestly crazy that Zapdos has been consistent since Gen 1 onwards.
uh-huh.
For the most part, obviously, I don't know like the gen by gen breakdown, but yeah, Zapdos has always been fairly viable from what I've seen. And then how about Moltres? Obviously, we like Moltres more than Articuno.
Yeah, so I think you could probably join it in C. Like you
Yeah.
said, it's slowly just like I think the one YouTuber I love, Mr. One Up, said it's just like if you threw a Firo in a freaking air fryer,
The
you get a
air
mole
fried
trace.
Firo.
Yeah, but and plus we have their forms coming up, which I'm pretty sure we think
Yeah.
each of the forms are better than their
Way
base
yeah.
version. So
Again, the problem with the Gen 1 legendary birds is that their color design obviously is simple. They did the same thing with the Galarian forms, but the expressions are very stifled by just the overall design. Like again, like just looking at the stills, in Scarlet and Violet, if you guys haven't hunted them already, they have some pretty cool animations. Obviously, each game, the even Gen 8 with the Galaforms, they had really interesting like overworld mechanics as well. But I think that in terms of just personality, obviously the newer a Pokemon is, the more that effort they put into distinguishing it and having it stand out. And I think that worked really well in their favor. So we're gonna go through the Galar forms now. Galarian Articuno. I call it Garumind. What do you think of it?
I much enjoy it. It's a nice change of pace compared to the other form. It's got what psychic flying. It's psychic type now.
Yes.
It's got a really cool signature move, freezing glare.
Oh, that is the best. The best part is they keep the same motif of
Yeah,
fire, ice, and electric,
yeah,
but they express it differently, which again adds to the personality. It's not just fire, thunder, and ice. And like even in Japan, the names are like fire, freezer, and then Zapdos is
yeah.
another one. So yeah, it's it definitely does a lot more for the personality of the Pokemon. So where are we gonna put it? B, C, A,
I think it's definitely better than Galarian Articuno. So I think B tier
B tier.
really works.
Now do we think it's better than Zapdos?
Mm, no, I
No.
personally don't think it is.
Okay, respect.
Like I said, I'm a Zapdos
All right, so
man.
I'm just gonna go ahead. I'm gonna start this one off with where I am. I'm putting in A. This is my favorite out of the three. I think it's got. I think it's really really cool. The fact that it's not a flying bird anymore.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like a Roadrunner kind of.
yeah, and it generates electricity through kinetic energy. It's again the personalities of these three birds are insane. So where would you put it?
Yeah, I like A tier.
You like A tier? Okay.
It's my second favorite of the bunch. Oh, actually, there's a reason I might have to go B
Okay.
because I think Galarian Moltres is B, but there's only a reason. It's my favorite and it's really cool. I might just spoil it right now. The reason I have to it in B is because I just think Yveltal is much cooler. Same typing,
That's fair. That's fair.
same kind of look to it.
Okay. So
So
I'll do it like this then. How's that?
okay, that's a good one.
Yeah,
I like
because
that.
I think that the Pokemon, I think that we did a good job discerning Zapdos before. So for consistency, I'm fine giving it B, but we're gonna crowd if we don't at least
Yeah.
make the trio stand out a bit more. All right, Mewtwo.
Uh, it's. I know it might be basic. I'm putting it in A tier. I love
Putting
Mewtwo.
it in A
I
tier.
love it too much. It's
Okay,
just
yeah, we can put Mewtwo in there.
quintessential legendary. When you think legendary Pokemon, Mewtwo is definitely one of the first ones that people think of.
Mewtwo's a Pokemon that gets so hard carried by its legacy that it's actually a really good Pokemon.
Yeah.
Because no matter like where you want to point it, like if you want to point to the anime, the game lore, its multiple appearances, like it's just a solid Pokemon overall. Unforgettable lore, unforgettable origin. It's set apart way more than most other legendary Pokemon, other than maybe like Silvally. and like the mythicals that are often either created or have some other specific origins to them. Mewtwo feels more like a mythical than a legendary because of its ties to Mew, and I think that it gets a lot more narrative from that. So I really like Mewtwo. All right, now we're doing the beasts, and we are not doing the paradox forms because, as Darian looked up, they are their own distinguished Pokemon. So despite their modern legacy, they are supposed to be just alternate
Yeah.
takes on the
Yeah, like
Pokemon
I
rather
think
than a
Gold
real
Piece.
Pokemon.
Yeah, I think they said they are old Pokemon resembling. It's kind of like like the convergent Evos. I think they
Right.
call it
Yep.
like the Wiglet and Wugtrios. Like, oh, they look like Wiglet and Wugtrio, but they're completely different.
Yep.
So
All right. So
yeah, they just don't really fit in with the legendary kind of thing.
all right. So for these three, which one is our favorite?
My favorite is Suicune.
Your favorite is Sweet. You're
Um,
actually going with Suicune. Wow.
yes,
I
that
was
is my
I was gonna
favorite.
say I feel like Suicune's always been overhyped, but in Journeys definitely lived up to legacy.
I'm about to say that's the one because I know Go's had it, and what was it like the muck in the water that poisoned it in that one episode, and just
Yeah.
like
It just instantly
pure the way it pure.
purifies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just really cool.
Suicune might
But
as well just be the most powerful of the three.
yeah,
I think they've expressed that well over the years, but I also think that Suicune's a little too basic being tied to water that way.
yeah,
But then Raikou and Entei don't really do much. We had Entei in the movie. Raikou has
yeah,
literally zero representation. Now that I think about
yeah.
it.
Because we have Suicune has what Uzine or whatever from the
Yeah,
Gen 2
from
games, who
Jinju
changes
games,
it down.
and Entei has a whole
Entei has a
movie.
movie, and then Raikou. Yeah,
Raikou
you're
just
right. Raikou
exists.
just.
I know the anime did something with it because the anime did something with all three, but
And even now, if anyone's well, do I want to say something about that? Well,
yeah,
Horizons has
and
a little something to
Horizons,
do with
yeah,
Entei as well. So
yeah. If you've been
that
keeping
would
up
really,
with the Medali Terracast, if you guys are starting Pokemon Horizons on Netflix, do give it a good look. There's gonna be a playlist on the channel from episode 1 all the way to the current Japanese. You can go ahead and follow that at your own will. Entei is one of 6 Pokemon that is present in that anime as a very big figure. So again, Raikou just gets nothing.
yeah.
All right, so let's set it up easy like this. So where do
Okay.
we think Sweet? Okay, where do you think Suicune belongs?
Um. Yeah. I like the list so far. I really think this list probably could have used an S tier because this B tier is
Well,
gonna get
A is the
overcrowded super
S.
fast.
A is the
Yeah.
S.
It's just that B's gonna get kind of overcrowded.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Um. I guess they can go start in B.
Okay,
Because I think, honestly, I think Entei's my least favorite personally.
I like Entei.
Um, I do as well, but like I said, I just Raikou and Suicune are just
All right,
my
so
two favorite. So
we'll start with Suicune over Entei and Raikou. Now it's just facts. The beasts have more personality than the birds. The birds are literally just random Gen 1
yeah,
Pokemon thrown into Gen 2 lore. And that's why Lugia's dog shit as well. We'll get into that. Um, but the beasts, their entire narratives in Johto, the team did way better expanding on Pokemon in Gen 2. And that's one of the only things that they did well in Gen 2 was expand on the world of Pokemon and better establish the lore of legendaries. So I think we'll start with there, just so we can get through the whole list. All right, Ho-Oh. We're not doing Yugi yet. We're not doing
oh
Lugia
good
yet. We're
lord,
not.
look at Raikou's Pokedex entries, guy. It's so cool. No wonder I saw her like in this thing.
Read me one. Go ahead.
Raikou embodies the speed of lightning. The roars of this Pokemon send shockwaves shuddering through the air and shake the ground as if lightning bolts have come crashing down.
With a roar, that is really cool. All right, so
And it's like it is
Ho-Oh.
said to have fallen with lightning. It can fire thunderbolts from the rain clouds on his back. That's right, it
Oh,
does.
that's Ring. Oh, wow. Raikou pretty sick.
A Pokemon that races across the land while barking a
Okay,
cry that
there.
sounds like crashing thunder. Yeah, this dude's metal as hell, dude. I love Raikou. No wonder.
Yeah, they
No
need to
wonder I
do
liked it
something
more
with him
than
in the
Entei.
future so that we can put him higher.
Well, Entei said its roars can make volcanoes erupt, so I mean,
There's not that
and
many
then
volcanoes though.
yeah, and then Suicune purifies water.
Really cool.
Yeah,
So their commander. Obviously, we're gonna put him above them to start.
yeah,
I don't think anyone would argue that Ho-Oh's less interesting than the beasts. It literally created the beasts. This Pokemon is Johto. It is the entire lore of Johto. There's nothing else. It's literally just Ho-Oh. Um, in terms of main story stuff.
Yeah.
Now, where do we want to put him? Do we want to put him in A or do we want to put him in B?
I'm putting Ho Ho in A tier personally. It's
Yep.
just way too important for Johto. You even have Ash in the anime seeing it
And
early
then
on.
episode 1, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just
Ho
it has an aura that not a lot of legendaries really
Yeah, Ho
can
is as important
feel.
to Pokemon as Pokemon like Arceus, honestly. In terms of like defining the generation, Arceus is a part of a core trio. Ho-Oh is not necessarily part of a core trio. It's more like Mewtwo where it stands out as its own thing. And then Lugia sort of tacked in. The legendary birds, the legendary beasts are all sort of behind Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh is kind of like that driving force for Gen 2. So do we want to put it above Mewtwo? And do we want to put Mewtwo above Galarian Zapdos? I feel like
Yeah,
Galarian Zapdos has a lot more personality in
I,
terms of like design and just like sort of like the direction that they had for the Pokemon. But Mewtwo has the lore.
yeah.
So do we want to put Mewtwo up first?
Yeah, I'd probably
And
go Mewtwo,
then
Ho-Oh,
Ho-Oh.
Zapdos.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there we go. And we'll fix these as we go.
Yeah.
We did say beasts are better than birds.
Yes. Correctable.
But we will make Galifire an exception because it
All right.
is a it is a good Galarian legendary, not as a Gen 1 legendary. All right, Arceus. Is Arceus staying there? I'm fine. I'm fine with
Yeah,
Arceus where it is.
I'll leave Arceus. I
Just
like
to make it
Arceus.
easier for us. All right, Lugia. F. Tell me why. Tell me why Lugia's an F.
It's this Pokemon and another one we'll get to in a bit. I just think were all time fumbles. It's like it's cool. I like Lugia. I'd personally put it like D tier. I
It's
don't know
like
about F, but
I'm starting it enough because we got to build
yeah,
from
yeah,
there. Um, but the thing about Lugia now, if I played the Gen 3 spin-offs that feature Shadow Lugia and all that, maybe I'd have
yeah,
some more nostalgia for it. But if you actually objectively look in the just the base Pokemon lore, Lugia gets nothing. It's not a water type. It's psychic flying. It's supposed to be a big part of like the oceanic lore of Pokemon. It's supposed to be the leader of the legendary birds, but if you look at the legendary birds, they're all just tacked on from Gen 1, and because they want Gen 1 and Gen 2 to connect so badly, they just sort of forced it in. Lugia was also an outsource for the development of Pokemon Silver. Initially, it was just Ho-Oh and the Legendary Beasts, which honestly, if they added Lugia in Gen 1, that would have been amazing. Give it its own purpose, make it, allude to the Ho-Oh Lugia thing, because I don't necessarily think they're rivals in the same way that some other Pokemon are. They kind of coexist in a way. They just sort of have their own domains. Do you know if Ho-Oh and Lugia have any beef, like Groudon, Kyogre?
I don't think so. Honestly, I don't even think they have any sort of connection
They really
whatsoever.
don't. They just sort of put Lugia in the ocean, made it a psychic flying type, and gave it the add-ons from Gen 1 instead of anything new or unique. Lugia might be connected to some other Pokemon as well, and I'm completely fine with you guys telling me about that in the comments. But when I usually talk about Lugia as a Pokemon, I just tunnel on all the things that drag it down in terms of its own initial personality. It's literally night and day. Everything that revolves around Ho-Oh in the Gen 2 lore puts a literal ironic spotlight on it. And then when you see how Lugia is set up in Gen 2 lore, it ironically does not have that spotlight. It's literally an afterthought in most of what we know when it comes to Johto. Do let me know, you guys, what's your favorite thing about Lugia down below, because obviously I'm not hating on you guys for liking Lugia. Again, nothing wrong with the Pokemon. It's just that there's a lot of factual things that I do not agree with. Darian says D, I say F. We're gonna go with F for this one, just because we're probably gonna put Pokemon that we both like in D. All right. So next we have the Reggies. The Reggies are here first. Let's go ahead and just pull up the Kyogre, Groudon, Rayquaza first. It's weird doing the Reggies first.
Yeah.
All right. Let's start with Rayquaza because obviously it stands out a little more.
A tier in front of Lugia, please and thank you. Thank you.
You mean Ho?
Yeah, it's same thing
Yeah,
really.
yeah. All right. So what do we like about Rayquaza? We gotta justify it, obviously. Even though we
Um,
shouldn't have to, but we're
yeah,
going to.
like a lot of the other third version Pokemon that they always it's just there's just something about them, and Rayquaza is no different. It's the master of the Groudon Kyogre duo. It's got a sick Mega. It's
Mhm.
got the design is just perfection. It's got a boss fight in Smash Brothers as well, where
Oh,
it's
that's true.
super cool. It's just it's a great Pokemon. There's not really much you can say about it, really. It's just kind of obvious.
Yeah, no, it
I'm just
feels
kind
it
of left
definitely
one
feels
though.
obvious. Being the master of the this is the Pokemon that really brought legendary trios into the forefront. Obviously, you had the birds and you had the beasts, but now it's the core mechanic, and they stuck with it ever since. It's why Gen 3 is such an iconic series of games, because not only do you have the addition of abilities, some other core mechanics, some ideas like contests, the Battle Frontier, but a lot of what gets set up in the later games starts with Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3, and every gen sort of adds on to it. And I think that the addition of Rayquaza as a definitive badass Pokemon for the definitive versions of the generation games, I think that's the best thing that we could have asked for. Obviously, some people will say, oh, Pokemon Crystal, you got Pokemon Yellow, but Pokemon Emerald definitively made the definitive versions of games stand out because it
Hmm.
was directly connected to the core conflicts of the games, which is Team Aqua and Team Magma seizing legendary Pokemon for power. Didn't really see a lot of that in the previous couple of games. In fact, Team Rocket doesn't even care about Ho-Oh in Gen 2. Team Rocket did care about Mewtwo in some versions of the Pokemon lore, but in the games, you don't see Mewtwo as a big figure. He's really just an Easter egg of sorts, just like the gimmick of having something really cool and additional to a generation. That's what Mewtwo is, but Rayquaza is what we think of when we think of the big definitive version of the game. That follows Giratina and Zekrom and so on and so forth. So Kyogre versus Groudon is an impossible debate for me. I obviously have always stuck with Kyogre more so than Groudon. Growing up, I did have Ruby version. When I was in high school, I chose Alpha Sapphire to complement. And yeah, I just like Kyogre a lot more. But I do not put one over the other, personally. What do you think, David?
Yeah, I like Kyogre more, but I think I may like Primal Groudon over Primal Kyogre.
Mm. You know what? We,
But
we could
like I
justify
said,
that. Yeah.
yeah, I've always been a Kyogre guy, like you said. I didn't, like I said, I didn't play much Pokemon growing up at all, but I I played Alpha Sapphire as my Gen 3 remake of choice. So yeah, I'm gonna have to. I like I said, I've always preferred Kyogre over Groudon, especially even in battle too.
All right. So where do
I'm
we want to
just
put it? Do we want to put it in B, A, C? How do we want to do it?
we can keep them. I like it the way it is now.
Yeah,
Just an A tier.
I was thinking that too. For the same reasons I was saying before, this is Gen 3 is when they finally
Cool.
got
Cool.
the proper idea, right? So in Gen 2, you have Ho-Oh versus Lugia. I already explained why they're absolutely night and day. But like I said, for me personally, from Gen 3 onwards, they're kind of even up into preference and they fit narratively perfectly. This like Gen 3 allowed Game Freak to say, "All right, this is going to be our core identity when it comes to building a villain team because Gen 1's team is very obscene. It does not fly by a lot of standards. The fact that in Gen 1 there were gangsters with whips that beat and caught and sold Pokemon. Games like Pokemon Fusions definitely course corrects by making Giovanni want to take on all three of the legendary birds and then he combines them all into one big fight. Stuff like that is really cool. I think that is a core part of Pokemon, and I think that's almost as important as anything else when it comes to the deciding factors and what makes Pokemon good. Having those box art legendaries, having those narratives that you can look at on a bare level and say, yeah, this is Pokemon. That's Kyogre and Groudon. We're gonna obviously rate the rest of the box arts up until Gen 9 about the same way, but it just makes sense putting the box arts for Gen 3 above most of these other sort of side characters and Arceus. So we'll go with that. If you guys have any complaints about that, let us know in the comments and let us know what you guys think about box art legendaries. So next we have the Reggies. Darren, which one's your favorite?
Out of the original three, probably Regirock.
Probably Regirock. We'll do Regirock first. Where are we putting them?
Honestly, even though it's my favorite, I've never been really a big Reggie enjoyer. I think looking at this list, they can go like behind, maybe in front of Moltres in C.
Okay.
I've never really been a Reggie person. I know you're a guy who likes the puzzles. Did you like deciphering all the Reggie codes back in the day?
Nobody did that. Not a single. If you tell us you did that, you are either deaf or no, blind. Sorry, and in which case you're listening to us. All right. Author's note: if you're blind, you're not playing Pokemon anyways. Why did they use Braille for these? Question mark. Or you're insane, or you were like in your 20s playing Pokemon back in the 2000s. Because nobody understood Braille, especially when it's applied into a video game. And I think that's what makes the Reggies so cool, is because they are the only time I can think of where a puzzle was that good that kids just would not be able to get it. And I respect that. I respect the challenge that comes with that. Obviously, Oraz does it a little bit differently, but it overall it's the same. And I think it's really cool. I think that gives them a couple of additional points, but as if that was just one Pokemon, that would be an A+ Pokemon. But it's split into 3. It's a trio.
Yeah.
They represent civilization, which is a very niche and awkward thing to sort of discuss. I think that's how they work. But yeah, let's go with my favorite next, which is Registeel. Registeel is just goated. I'm thinking about C as well. I'll put him right behind Regirock. And then I do like Regice. You like Regice. We like Regice.
Yeah.
We'll put it behind
Articuno. Yeah, I prefer it a little bit over Registeel. I just don't really like Registeel's style of battle too much.
I mean, they all just explode at this point. They don't really get to battle anymore. So yeah, so we'll put our favorites up a bit more, and then we'll put Reggie Ice in the back. Regice. All right, Laddies. Which one's your favorite Laddie?
Latios is my favorite Laddie.
Latios is my favorite Laddie. Where would you put your favorite Laddie?
I can probably throw it maybe above Suicune and B.
Okay.
I like Latios a lot.
I think they are. I think they are cooler for sure.
Yeah, the only thing that I don't really like about them is I think they have by far the most forgettable Mega Evolutions of any Pokemon.
That's fair. But they did properly integrate them into Gen 3 lore before post-game, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, with the little soaring mechanic.
So what are the Laddies? What is their job? Could you look that up?
Yeah, I got you. Let's see.
Let's give them a fair shot.
So I know what the Eon Duo is what they're referred to as.
But but what does that even mean? Because these are definitely Pokemon that get away with flying under the radar. No pun intended.
Latios and Latios debuted in Pokemon Heroes, where they serve as the guardians of Alto Mare, which is probably some.
It's the place that the movie takes place. So these are literally.
So they protect the Soldew, which is that item they carry around.
What does the Soldew?
Yeah, let's say, can I see what the Soldew is?
Wait, they're kind of mid. What the heck? They protect an anime exclusive place, and they protect an item exclusive to them. That's
the Soldew's purpose is to protect the city of Alto Mare from danger.
It's okay. They're shit. They're shit.
And to this length, it is capable of gridlocking the city, controlling the water sources, and reviving fossils. Once connected with the defense mechanism, whenever. And Latios' spirit is supposed to be in the Soldew. Huh.
Alright, so we're dropping them below the beasts.
Yeah.
For sure. And then I'll put my favorite behind your favorite again. What? That makes so much sense now. I always looked at these Pokemon like, oh yeah, I saw the movie. I didn't realize these Pokemon were just movie exclusives. That's so bad. That's really bad. Why did they even exist at that point? I'd say they're mythicals. At that point.
Honestly.
That's how mythicals work. They're just like random movie exclusive Pokemon. You know what? We're disqualifying Latios and Latios right now. They are disqualified.
Banned.
Banned. Nope. Nope. You're not gonna gaslight me with a Pokemon that's in the game only because of a movie tie-in. Nope. They're banned. They're mythicals. To the mythicals with them. All right. We will do the late trio before the Gen 4 Pokemon because why not? I hate these Pokemon personally. I personally hate these Pokemon.
Just...
There's too many of them. They don't make Legends Arceus is really cool with them. I enjoyed the late trio on it, but their entire purpose is good, but they get so clunky when you try to separate the three of them. I just want to tier them all together, and I want to put them in A tier.
A tier. You said you hate them.
I want to put them in A tier because they're super important. They're literally the keys to unlocking the legendaries, which I don't think they've done that ever since.
Yeah, I can give you that one.
But we don't have to put an A tier. Where would you put them?
Probably like C.
All right, so we'll put them in C tier.
And Uxie is my favorite of the bunch.
And again, their lore prevalence, we're putting them above the legendary birds because legendary birds are just Pokemon. And I'm actually gonna argue that we put them above the beasts, right next to Arceus.
Yeah, I think they just hold a little bit more importance.
They're really important
in terms of the world. Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, guys. Don't we got to do this live.
Honestly,
we didn't do too much prep for this, but
volcano, erupting dog, water purification,
the keys to God,
beings of knowledge, emotion, and willpower. Yeah, I think that's a little bit more higher on the.
And they are really cool in Legends Arceus, which I really like. Yeah. But I hate them. There's 3 of them, and they're all the same. They might have different stats and stuff. Yeah,
they have different stats.
Adzelf, I think, is the only one that people have ever used competitively. Yeah. And they used it as like an explosion fodder.
Yeah, it's just sets up stealth rocks and blows up. I don't think anyone's used Mesprit in their life.
All right.
And Uxie's more defensive.
So Dialga and Palkia are going right up in A to start, obviously, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about them. Where
actually, you know me, I love Palkia, but after looking at it, I think Palkia and Lugia are basically the same in terms of just an all-time fumble. Like you're telling me this is the dadgum space deity, but it's a dragon water type, which to me makes
space doesn't even have water. Yeah,
I think people were talking about how they want it to be psychic type, and I know they're not shown here.
Dragon Steel, Dragon Psychic. I mean, it's the same thing because Dialga resists everything.
I know they're not shown here. I will never get over Origin Form Palkia.
Oh, I love the Origin Form.
It's kind of grown. It's grown on me over.
It's
time.
Like a whole centaur. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's grown on me over time, but I mean, I think but in terms of cool, like I said, space for those who don't know, which is probably everybody. Astronomy is my dream job. But unfortunately, it's definitely not what it's cracked up to be. I just wanted to look through a telescope and discover planets. It turns out there's a bunch of math and stuff.
You gotta do math.
So yeah, I think top of B works for Palkia.
Okay. I agree. Any Pokemon that's typing just contradicts its existence is annoying.
I have no idea why it's a water type whatsoever.
Yeah.
No clue.
Yeah, no. And then Dialga deals with time. Dragon Steel again doesn't really click, but at least it doesn't contradict. Now we're gonna start with purely designs. Are Dialga and Palkia better designs than Kyogre and Groudon? I would argue they're about even.
I think Dialga is cooler than them, but I think I would prefer the look of Groudon and Kyogre over Palkia.
The way I see it,
I really do like Dialga's design.
The way I saw it as a kid, right? Because again, Gen 3 and Gen 4 really clicked in terms of like figuring out the designs for Pokemon. The Weather Trio, which I don't think they're actually called. Are they called that actually?
Maybe.
I think they have another title.
Let's see here.
We
have the super ancient Pokemon.
The super ancient Pokemon. That's also what they're called, right?
This trio has historically been called the Weather Trio by fans. So I guess their official name is the super ancient Pokemon.
That's fair. That's a cool title for 2000s Japan.
Their origin,
the primal forms. Yeah, it makes sense to why they made the primal forms now. But the thing about the super ancient trio is that their designs and the way that they're displayed in game as well, similar to like the Reggie's iconic like eye designs. Um, I think that Dialga and Palkia are just that, but they sort of suited them up and made them look more modern or futuristic. So I personally want to just leave Dialga there in terms of design.
Okay.
Now, in terms of power, I feel like Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina are known for being some absolute deities because of
Hmm.
what their domain is. So I will put Dialga above Kyogre and Groudon in that respect.
Okay.
Just because like you can't really fight something that controls space or time. I mean that's a hard fight to go into. Now, Heatran was not listed as a mythical, I believe.
I don't think it is. Yeah.
I also forget that this is a Gen 4 Pokemon.
Yeah. It's I don't really care for Heatran. My initial thought is D tier because I don't care. I
Yeah,
don't really know what it's about like
look
at
it up.
all.
We'll talk about it.
This
But yeah, no, I agree. Heatran is a forgettable Pokemon. Competitively,
what did
I
they
don't think it
just
ever
say?
had much of an opportunity to shine.
It was
It's like
decent
Fire
in Gen
Steel, right?
4, and yeah, and it was decent in Gen 4, and then they took Toxic away from it in one of these generations, and it just fell off a cliff.
That's rough. I mean,
But it kind of came
every
back
Pokemon
for
that
Gen
sucks.
9 when Terrestrialization. I think it is it in Gen 9?
I think so.
Indigo? Not Indigo.
No, because
Heatran is one of the Pokemon a Team Galactic grunt used while attacking. What? Is that a Daga movie thing?
yeah, it
It
is.
has to be.
It's in the movies. It's another movie mon probably.
It is the Lava Dome Pokemon.
What makes this thing a legendary, and
It
where does it
has a
come from?
hidden ability. What?
Where does this Pokemon come
Okay.
from?
Let's get the origin here. Anything at all. That's Pokemon Generations.
Does this Pokemon have an origin? Does it have a
According to legends, Heatran was said to have been created from the magma hidden beneath Mount Coronet. The body of Heatran is said to hold
Oh.
many unsolved mysteries. It can form a shield around itself in order to protect itself. Oh yeah, let's look at the Pokedex
So
real
this is
quick.
the deity of Mount Coronet.
Okay.
That's pretty cool. We'll leave it in D though. It's a
Yes.
we'll leave it in D though. Reggie Gigas.
My personal favorite of the entire Reggies, honestly.
Hot take, hot take.
Definitely held back by its ability, for sure. Um, but
Slacking wasn't enough of a casualty. They had to make another normal type with a shit
yeah,
ability.
and I think it's way worse because
And
at least with you don't
you know
lose
what the
stat.
worst part is? Normal does not beat anything inherently.
Yeah, but it doesn't like lose too much either, except for
It's
fighting.
ghosts.
But
Ghost can't. You can't hit a ghost with a normal type move. Fighting
yeah,
type just absolutely shits on it. It's really rough being a normal type Pokemon. So yeah, where would you like to put it?
of all those facts, I think it can go. Maybe let's do C above the other Reggies.
All
It's
right,
right behind Raikou.
all right, that's fair. Giratina.
Is A plus. It's
Okay.
the best
Yeah, definitive
ever.
ones kind of blow everything else out the water.
Um,
We'll go ahead put it above you. Honestly, I don't think Giratina clears Ho-Oh or Rayquaza.
Not quite. It's maybe Ho-Oh for me,
Again, I mean
but
Ho-Oh's the entire
yeah,
point of Gen 2.
yeah, exactly. Um,
but
but
Giratina is by far top 5 coolest legendary Pokemon.
yeah, it's got an amazing typing. It's got one of the
It's like
was it the
one of the
first
only.
legend to get a form?
If we're looking at what we have currently, yes.
Yeah, because in Gen 4 we didn't have the origin forms for Dialga Palkia.
Yeah.
Gen 3 didn't have any kind of different forms. It is the owner of the greatest move animation in Pokemon history. The Shadow Force in Pokemon Legends Arceus, where you can see the claws coming out of the cracks in the
Yeah.
screen, and it just tears. Coolest thing ever. There's the shot of the movie where it just wraps up Dialga and just pulls it into the distortion world. It's just, it's so cool. It's it's just it's fantastic. What a
And
great
remind me,
Pokemon.
do people just count this as like the Satan to Arceus' god?
Yeah. Like I said, another reference to a YouTuber I listen to, Fawful's Minion. He does a lot of Pokemon content, and he was talking about like the Pokedex. Like you have Yveltal, who just comes out of his cocoon and kills all life. You have this, that, and the other. And he's like, what did Arceus, what did Giratina do to get imprisoned by Arceus if Yveltal and other of these Pokemon can just run around? So it's basically, yeah, it's basically Pokemon Satan. And
You know, perhaps it's because there is no counter to Giratina's
yeah,
mischief. Because you have Dialga and Palkia kind of keeping each other in line
yeah,
with their shared domain of like space time. They're not. It's not just if Dialga and Palkia were one Pokemon, Arceus would probably be like, yeah, nah, yeah, nah, let's not do that.
yeah.
Let's not create the biggest catastrophe in Pokemon history. And then like Yveltal has Xerneas to balance out its power. And so if you
Hmm.
put those two Pokemon together, then they kind of neutral out. So Cresselia and Darkrai. We are counting Darkrai as a legendary Pokemon, even though it is a mythical. Because Cresselia and Darkrai have that shared history, and for some reason Cresselia is listed as a legendary and not a mythical. I don't get it. Game Freak probably also doesn't get it, but if we have like if Pokemon is about trios and duos, then like Cresselia and Darkrai are very, very important. So just having one on the list just wouldn't make sense. Let us know down below. Would you have preferred us just drop Cresselia and Darkrai, or do you need Darkrai in your legendary bowl of cereal? All right, we'll start with Cresselia. Read me Cresselia's lore.
All right, let's see what we have here.
We're gonna.
Due to Cresselia is said to resemble a crescent moon and a woman who made the Milky Way. What? Okay. Cresselia has the power to dispel nightmares by and holding one of its feathers can bring happy dreams. Thank you, Bulbapedia. Do you have anything else?
Nope. That's Cresselia's entire point. I'm surprised, and let me tell you why I'm surprised. They put these two Pokemon in Gen 4 knowing that in Gen 5 they were going to do a whole mechanic that revolves around sleeping and dreaming. Is
Yeah.
that not a is that's just a classic Game Freak moment.
Yeah. And looking at this, it's another interesting thing. It says mythicals are literally given to Pokemon who are only obtainable via an event.
Right.
But in Legends Arceus, you can get a Darkrai no problem. So I don't think it has a problem fitting into this list at all.
That's
So
fair. Yeah, yeah. Events have been a very big problem up until
yeah,
Gen 6 through 8, and obviously 9. There's no issue. They literally gave us
yeah,
Petra Run as part of the DLC. And the just as a side tangent, this is why we need DLC in Pokemon, because how in the hell are they supposed to distribute mythical Pokemon otherwise? Um, like we should have to pay to partake in some of these events. They did give us Zarude, they did give us Zeraora in some aspects, but in terms of mythical Pokemon, Gen 9 is just completely better than every other gen just by default because they gave Petra an entire story.
yes,
They gave Petra an entire DLC, and they managed to connect that DLC to the second part of the DLC, and they managed to just seamlessly include, hey, by the way, here's a new Pokemon. This is Ogerpon. Oh, is Ogerpon a legendary Pokemon?
I think it is actually.
All right, we'll be right back. I'm gonna add these. I gotta add those three. All right, we're back. We added Ogerpon and the weird poisoned trio. I don't know what they're called. But wait, does Gen 9 doesn't have a trio otherwise, huh?
No, because it's Koraidon, Miraidon, and there's no third. I
And
guess
Terapagos.
Terapagos would be the third one, but
Yeah, but
like,
they're not connected at all. And then
yeah, there's no
Ogerpon's not
connection.
connected to anything from Paldea to begin with. So
I
anyways,
guess the loyal three can be the trio.
yeah,
There you
the
go.
Loyal 3 is the trio for Gen 9, which is really cool. That's what they're called. I knew that. Anyways, where are we putting Cresselia?
Honestly, it's oh good lord, I'll put it in D tier.
Put it in D. Obviously above
It's
Heatran.
just not very
They
integral.
do it dirty when it comes to Cresselia and Darkrai. Darkrai
Which is, yeah, I'm
obviously.
about to say it's gonna be very contradictory, because I think Darkrai's A tier because it's so cool.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
Now,
just like Cresselia, it doesn't really show much importance to the whole.
I'm not agreeing to Cresselia in D tier because I think it's bad. I'm agreeing with Cresselia in D tier because I think it would have been better in Gen 5.
Oh yeah, for sure. There is the event in Gen 5 that it's a part of as well.
Yeah, but they didn't wait. They could have.
Yeah.
For
They could.
most of what they do with the Pokemon games is well in advance. So by the time they were wrapping up with Gen 3, they probably started working on Gen 4. They probably got the idea for Darkrai Cresselia. I don't know if Darkrai has anything. I don't think Darkrai has anything specific to Gen 4 tying it either. It's just the fact that they put the movies in there. And a lot of
Yeah.
times the movies and when the Pokemon are presented and all that stuff does not line up nearly as well as the games just on their own. And so I'm just gonna leave Cresselia and Darkrai where they are. We don't need to worry about
Ooh, we might
just
have to lower Darkrai. I forgot it has weird legs. Look at those things, dude.
it's fine, it's fine, it's fine.
Yucky.
Okay. I put Terrapagos. We're gonna do Terrapagos next because I put him in a weird spot and I realized way too late that they put them somewhat in alphabetical order, but also by generation. So, anyways, Terrapagos. Another reason for people to be mad. We're gonna jump straight to Gen 9. I mean, I've been talking about it already. So I'm going to go into my whole spiel. First,
Go for it.
where do you think Terrapagos should go?
At least A tier.
I would say A plus above.
Yeah, I was thinking
everything but Rayquaza.
Yes, that is a good choice.
Okay, reason number one: Terrapagos is a main part of the anime from nearly the start, which is a massive. Actually, from the start, because it's been there since episode 1 as the pendant that Liko carries around. Now, this is how you do Pokemon anime. Pokemon Horizons again. Follow our podcast where we do short and actually brief discussions on the Pokemon episodes. This Pokemon is a complete breath of fresh air in so many ways. Firstly, we don't get it in the core game. We get it in the DLC. Koraidon and Miraidon, I do not consider them legendary Pokemon. They are paradox forms of Cyclizar, and while they are the box art Pokemon, I think that they did a really good job of sort of subverting the expectations that come with legendary Pokemon. They tied it to exploration. They don't really represent anything at all. Otherwise, they are just Cyclizar, and I think that's pretty cool. I also think that they kind of jumped the gun calling them legendaries, but it fits the same way that the Ultra Beasts do. So let's say that in a parallel world, right? Darian, follow me here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Gen 7, box arts are Buzzwole and Pheromosa, right? Okay. They're Ultra Beasts. They're in their own category, right? I think that's sort of how we are with Gen 9. Koraidon and Miraidon are factually legendaries. But I disagree with them being classified as such, and because we're doing a tier list, I'm just going to go ahead and do it like this. So, Terrapagos is the definitive legendary Pokemon of Gen 9. You agree? We've talked about this before. You agree with that, right? Darian. Darian. Huh? What do you mean? Oh, you're supposed to be listening. Terrapagos is the Gen 9 legendary, right?
Yes, it's... Sorry, I was just looking at another video with this guy talking about it a lot. But, yeah, it's the... Like you said, the third legend. It's the big bad. Not big bad, but it's the big one. It's one of the most important Pokemon in probably the entire series because it's the birth of terrestrialization.
Yep, that's true.
It is definitely has something to do with the paradox Pokemon. As well. I don't know exactly how it was used.
I think it was used for the time. I'm honestly, that's a good question. I don't know if Terrapagos has a lot of power. And as we've seen in the anime, it's able to draw in things from its past. And it can also connect and distribute a sort of energy, right? Because the stellar phenomenon is very different than normal. And we are assuming that in the Horizons anime that the 6 legendary heroes also have been given the stellar type by Terrapagos, which is why it's connected to them. This is a super, super powerful Pokemon just on its own. It's just a strong Pokemon. And you don't need it necessarily to be strong on its own to convey that. It's been conveyed through the anime and it's been conveyed through the games what this Pokemon is genuinely capable of. And again, from the very start of the anime, this Pokemon has taken center stage. It is a very important part of the lore of Paldea. And the anime will probably give us more on what the actual games sort of alluded to with the past of Paldea. And I'm super looking forward to seeing what they do with that in Horizons, and hopefully that will keep this Pokemon A plus. Honestly, I would right now put it above Mewtwo, and I would definitely put it up above Rayquaza, but we're gonna hold off based on the fact that
Yeah,
it's more recent.
yeah, but
And
it's
on its
just so
own, it's not going to be
it's,
nearly as iconic for the fan base. And
yeah.
it's not even a Pokemon that we necessarily are too invested in. But in terms of what it is and what it represents, this is by far the coolest legendary Pokemon that we've had, maybe even ever. In terms of like what it represents and its place in the Pokemon lore, right? Like we're talking like Gen 4 Arceus levels of like this Pokemon is important. So
Yes.
now now we are in the middle of Gen 5 Pokemon. I want to start with the legendary Jins because I fucking hate those guys. All right, so we got Landy, Thundurus, and Tornadus. There we go.
Correct.
And we also have a Morris, which we're gonna put in F, right?
Yeah, I hate
We don't care about this Pokemon.
it. It's
Um,
so irrelevant.
if I don't think anyone cares about this Pokemon. If you care about this Pokemon, let us know in the comments why it deserves higher than F tier. Thank you very much. So the Jins, where do you want to put them?
I can get him in C-ish, kind of around Moltres territory, but I wouldn't be too mad at D.
All right,
To
which one's
be
your
honest.
favorite though?
Thunderous.
Thundurus is also my
my
favorite,
favorite.
so we're gonna put Thundurus at the end of C.
Yeah.
What are these Pokemon even? We already have a better trio in Gen 5. Why do these Pokemon exist?
Let's take a
And
gander.
they also have Therian forms. Why do these Pokemon
Yeah.
exist? What do they represent? Why are these Pokemon so important that they belong in Unova? Like that's the thing that really bothers me. Because the Musketeer trio, they have their own sort of rich lore. I forget they have a rivalry with another legendary Pokemon, right? Or was that just a Keldeo movie?
It might have just been the movie. So
Keldeo has a rival though in the movies. I forget which Pokemon.
Kyurem. It's Kyurem.
Kyurem, that's right. That's right.
Let's see here. The Forces of Nature. It's a cool name, actually. Um, what in the world?
Oh, Kyurem's a mythical, isn't it?
I don't think it is. I think it's a legendary.
I'm blanking. Hold on. I'm gonna have to look it up. Are we talking about
There's a. This is.
Oh no. We are thinking okay. No, we are thinking about Kyurem. I had a whole blank moment where I was thinking of this Pokemon, but I could have sworn there was a different one that we were talking about. I don't know why that happened. It's midnight, guys. Forgive me. Yeah, no, Kyurem. Yeah, no, Kyurem's right here. Yeah. Um. Wow. How did I blank on that? That was weird. So did you learn anything about the Jins?
So there is a myth about them from the
That's dumb.
anime.
That's very dumb.
Upon visiting the Abundant Shrine, the player will cross a group of 3 children arguing just before the shrine. They collectively tell the folktale of the Great Landorus, which apparently Landorus is the leader of the trio.
All right, yeah, I believe that.
Allegedly punished 2 other legendary Pokemon, Tornadus and Thundurus, for wreaking massive destruction across the land with their winds and thunderstorms. This is Landorus and Amorous will revive his what? Nah, there's nothing here.
So
There's nothing here.
so there are Japanese origins for these Pokemon.
Yeah, it's like Raijin, the Thunder God,
Yeah.
and then there's a few others. But it just looks like they're like a knockoff Weather Trio.
They really got added in to Gen 5. I don't know why. I just don't know why. It feels like they're just tacked in. They're more
For sure.
event Pokemon too. It's a weird thing. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Let us know in the comments, guys. How stupid am I for looking at Kyurem and forgetting its name and thinking it was a completely different Pokemon? So we're gonna do the Musketeer trio. We are not doing Keldeo. Keldeo is a mythical Pokemon. I love this trio in Gen 5. I like that they're integrated into the story, similar to how the beasts were. And honestly, a really cool thing because Gen 5 is like a soft remake. These are like the soft remake beasts, and they actually added them into the fucking game.
Yeah.
So specifically with Black and White 2, right? Like Black and White 1, I don't think they did anything with them, but Black and White
I
2.
think, yeah. Black and White 2 may have just done stuff with Keldeo with it. I think it's a Resolute
It did do the
form
Resolute
or
thing, but
something.
that's a whole other
Yeah,
stupid thing
that's
that Gen
just
5 it's
for
a
another
whole
day.
event trigger thing.
Hmm.
I'll put a pin, guys, if you want to hear me rant about Gen 5 events. All right, so which one of these is our favorite? I obviously love Verzion the most.
Mine is Cobalion.
Hmm. Where do
Very
we put him
noble.
though?
I think they can chill around maybe Zapdos, Galarian Articuno. Well, actually, yeah,
Yeah, that's fair. We'll put him
maybe
up.
around Suicune level.
And then Cobalion and I mean, obviously Terracon's really cool too, but we're gonna just shove him into B here. I refuse to make another tier. If you're mid, you're mid. That's just how it works.
Yeah, honestly.
All right, so the ideology trio. I don't. What is this trio?
Let's take a gander. Zekrom, Reshiram, and Kyurem. They are the Tau trio.
Oh, Tau trio. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. See here.
Because I know a big part of this is that they represent different things. They were once like one being, I think, and then they split. And then Kyurem is the leftover, and then Reshiram and Zekrom are like two cohesive parts. Uh, we'll start them out in A tier because A tier is not filled out that much yet, and then we'll decide how amazing they are. Obviously,
So I love the yin yang basis that they go with. Like
mm,
it says, let's see. Reshiram represents the concept of yang, controls fire. Zekrom yin is thunder, and Kyurem represents the concept of wuji, which is the absence of both, and controls ice. And of course, Kyurem is able to fuse with Zekrom and Reshiram.
right.
Overall, I think Zekrom's probably my favorite. Then I'll go Kyurem then Reshiram because Kyurem has a bit more, definitely has a lot of focus, whether it be in Black and White 2 with the fusions or the Keldeo movie being an important figure, the main villain in there.
Right.
Um, and I know, yeah, Zekrom and Reshiram and the hero. Apparently, there was a hero
Yeah,
back then. Of
there's
course, we have
yeah, the actual people that interact with them I think is what brings on like the ideas that come along with these Pokemon as well. Like they represent something and then the Pokemon that they follow or work with will end up being like the representation of like that ideal that they had.
mhm.
All that's really cool. I'm gonna put Zekrom before Reshiram, but I'm gonna put Kyurem up front because of just how much cooler it becomes based on like where it is in that yin yang. And sort of like what it represents for the sequel games, which are technically better than the first ones, but obviously the actual story of the first games are just, you know, a lot better for people. So we're gonna move on to Gen 6 next. Um we have and again, we're gonna start box arts up here because they're usually more prevalent than most other Pokemon. And then we have Zygarde. All right, we're dropping Zygarde obviously until they do something with it
Yeah.
in Legends ZA.
Yeah, because they did a little with Sun and Moon, the cells around the island, and it's
Yep.
10% a complete form.
They did give us a Z arc in the anime where Zygarde gets focused, but that was mostly as one cell and not necessarily the lore of the Pokemon overall.
Correct.
I don't even remember if Lysander did anything with the core two legendaries. It might have
Honestly,
all gone to Zygarde.
yeah, it and like even in the games, it used the legendaries, but
Yep.
then
Yep.
there's nothing is mentioned about Zygarde, but it's just in a cave at the end of the game. But it is technically the master of the duo because its ability literally just shuts down the other auras, and it's kind of like a, I guess, a savior. I guess the complete form would be its like full full
It's full
power
power.
form.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then with the Pokedex entry saying when the Kalos region's ecosystem falls into disarray, it appears and reveals its secret power, which sounds more like a Yveltal kind of thing because Yveltal's lore is I'm
Yeah,
coming out of my
Zygarde
cocoon and
fits
killing everyone.
so well with the themes of life and death, being a protector that tries to keep balance. But unlike Rayquaza, it doesn't matter in execution. It does nothing in execution. And hopefully Legend ZA and obviously the planned Pokemon Z, if they had a planned Pokemon Z, would have probably played out the same way as the Super Ancient Trio. I'm going to say the correct term. But in terms of where we're gonna put them, obviously I'm going to be biased, but I'm also going to be factual about it. Uh, Xerneas is the coolest of the three because it's the first fairy type legendary. Um, and then Yveltal being dark flying, obviously that put a damper on my mood. I'm like, that's a really weird distinction. Just make it weak, completely weak to the Pokemon, while also not giving anything unique. Honestly, people I remember, uh, we're about the same age, but you are a little younger. So I don't know how much attention you put into the internet discourse back then. Um, but they wanted a second type for Yveltal so bad. Do you remember that?
I don't remember. I wasn't really
That's where the
following
idea
it.
of sound type was like super
Yeah,
prevalent, especially when they
also
revealed
remember
the
that.
fairy type. People really wanted an extra type to be added other than fairy, and Yveltal was unfortunately um a classic example of the Pokemon community getting too hyped for something that doesn't make any sense nor was teased at all. Because it just ended up being a generic typing, but it is obviously edgier and edgier is cooler. So that it has that over Xerneas, but Xerneas I think is more important for the history of Pokemon with its typing being what it is. And then Zygarde obviously falls off a cliff. I dropped them all down to B because I feel like especially as the further up we go, in the generations and in the years, I think that the legendary Pokemon stopped having as big of an appeal. So we're gonna drop Zygarde down to the end of B tier, because it does have a lot of prevalent lore. However, the execution of it falls way harder than any other Pokemon that we have in B tier. B tier is almost strictly a lore
Yeah.
inclusion list right now, with the Lake Trio and the Beast as well as Arceus. But yeah, we're gonna put Zygarde right there down at the bottom of B tier because it's not a bad Pokemon at all. It represents a lot of very important things, but we are waiting on Legend ZA for it to truly rise up to the A plus tier that it belongs in. Now we are in Gen 7. Wow, that was fast.
Quick little fun fact: Yveltal is indeed my favorite legendary
Ah, yes.
of the entire bunch.
Oh yeah,
Um,
it's really
I
cool.
remember watching the reveal. I was like, "Man, these are some cool looking Pokemon." And then you see Yveltal with the Y shape in the sky. I said, "I'm buying Pokemon Y."
Yeah,
And I also think it has the coolest cry of any Pokemon. It's just to me, it's peak. But like you said, it's just typing kind of lets it down, and I think Xerneas is lore wise a bit better than
yeah. Bringer of life versus a bringer of
yeah,
death. Yeah, it's edgy. It's edgy. Edgy is cool.
yeah.
Dark. That's why Darkrai's up there. That's why Giratina is up there. But I feel like with Gen 6, they are not nearly as exciting, despite being a more definitive like duo than like Reshiram and Zekrom, for example. Like Reshiram and Zekrom represent something a bit more um intrinsic, I guess you could say. While
Yeah.
it's just like these Pokemon were used as weapons, Xerneas and Yveltal are objectively powerful, powerhouse, balance of the world type things. So yeah, no, I mean really cool. But I think it's fair to say that most people would agree that the earlier generations, the nostalgia, the simplicity, not nuance, the novelty of seeing how legendaries evolve just sort of put a damper on Gen 6 and onwards, especially with Gen 5 being the peak of the franchise for most people. So
Hmm.
next we have the RKS system with type Null and Silvally. Now, personally, I don't really care for these Pokemon, but in terms of the lore, in terms of the anime, in terms of what they represent and where they come from, they have a really cool mix of Arceus, Mewtwo, um, and just
You get a
other
little Genesect as well.
in Genesect as well. Yeah, they represent a really niche archetype of Pokemon, uh, which is like the man-made legendaries. You also have Magearna as another example of a mythical Pokemon that was mostly engineered. So I'm starting off in B. Where would you like to put Type Null and Silvally? I think they're a duo. I think we can't separate them.
Yeah. I definitely prefer Savali over Type Null.
Yeah, but it's like an evolution, so
Yeah,
it's really hard
it's pretty much
to
an
do anything
evolution.
about.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm fine putting them in A tier.
Mhm.
I think that they're distinct enough to belong in A tier, but I don't want to put them over any of the box arts or Darkrai. Also, I'm gonna put Darkrai behind the rest of the box arts because it's obvious. All right,
Yeah.
so now we got the Tapus, which is the most exciting part for me about Gen 7. A guardian for each of the 4 islands. Now, this is going to be a hard one. We're definitely going to do more bias. So we're going to start at Tapu Koko. Tapu Koko is one of the coolest motherfuckers out there. We're going to
It's
start him
so
off in
sick.
A, and you tell me where we want to go with it. They all represent the same thing. They're just island guardians. We're not going to overcomplicate their lore.
Yeah.
Tapu Koko is a main character for the Gen 7 anime. It gives Ash the Z crystal that he ends up... the thing that he ends up using with the Z crystals. That's about it.
Yes.
It's just really cool. All right, so do we want to put it above? Do we want to put it below? I think we're fine here.
Yeah, this is a good spot for
Okay.
the Tapus.
You want to put all the Tapus there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Me personally, Lele's my personal favorite of the bunch.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I love
I'll put
the
Lele
psychic
behind
and
Bulu and then
fairy.
Feeny at the end. All right, so we got all the Tapus in A tier. They are really cool Pokemon. They represent something very distinct. Obviously, if you didn't want to do Solgaleo and Lunala, these Pokemon are definitively legendaries instead of somewhat legendaries because Solgaleo and Lunala almost fit too much into the Ultra Beast stuff. They don't necessarily they genuinely don't represent anything in terms of Alola itself. They are Ultra Beasts. So yeah. We're gonna include them obviously though. And the reason why we're gonna include them is because they are just legendary Pokemon in their own regards. They have a whole thing with this little guy right here, Cosmog. Cosmog is an A plus tier, obviously.
Yes.
Cosmoem is an F tier.
Yeah, I was about to just took the words right out of my mouth. It's
It
one of the most
it serves its
irrelevant
purpose,
things.
but it's even
Yeah.
better than Lugia because it actually represents something. All right, now which one's your favorite? Solgaleo or Lunala? We'll start with that.
I love Solgaleo.
Solgaleo is goated.
Yeah.
I am a Leo. I have my whole life loved lions, griffins, anything of the sort. For me, it's an A plus easily. But where would you put Solgaleo?
Yeah, A plus is really good for me.
Okay.
Another one of the Pokemon you may want. Some people may argue of the typing being kind of weird. Steel Psychic,
Steel Psychic.
the Sun, definitely probably should have been Steel Fire. But
I was gonna say Fire Psychic.
that can
Steel
work
type
too.
makes no sense.
Fire definitely.
Yeah.
And
then Lunala is it Ghost or Dark?
It's Ghost. Oh, good lord.
Ghost.
I think
Ghost Psychic? Ghost Flying? What is this Pokemon?
Lunala is Psychic Ghost.
Psychic Ghost. Really cool typing.
Yeah, it's very. Is that what Hoopa is?
Or
is it Dark or Dark? I think it's Dark Psychic. I'm pretty sure
Hoopa's not on
Hoopa
this
is
list.
Dark
Don't
Psychic.
confuse me. But I got
It is.
Okay, so all right. I honestly would put Solgaleo over the Galarian Zapdos.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
It's really cool.
You
You know, ironically though, Solgaleo and Lunala don't actually represent the Sun and Moon that well, do they?
Not really. Special. I mean, Lunala definitely represents the moon.
Well, I mean, they obviously represent Sun and
Solgaleo.
Moon, but
Yeah.
they don't do anything with that. It doesn't mean anything. It's just
Yeah.
appearance. But
Correct.
ironically, they're cooler than most other legendary. All right, so I'll at least start Lunala off above the Tapus because Nebby. I don't want to shove it all the way up into A tier though because it's not our favorite.
Yeah.
I think it'll be fine above Arceus.
Okay. I can rock with that easy.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, even Darkrai to an extent. I think Lunala's an edgier Pokemon, being like a moon bat.
Especially it's shiny too with the blood moon coloration.
True. All right, so we'll give Lunala some props. There's nothing wrong with it. We just have to make a distinct tier list. We have to have a distinct opinion. And Cosmoem is only an F tier because it's literally just a transition between Cosmog and Solgaleo and Lunala. Necrozma is a goat.
Easy A+ tier.
Easy A+ tier.
Easy A+ tier.
I'm gonna
I'd
throw
probably
it
put it
above
right
home.
behind. Yep, right there it is. Right,
It's
right in
it
front of.
it is the most menacing thing that I've ever encountered in the Pokemon games outside of them deciding that we need to make Pokemon possess
Yeah.
people.
The only Pokemon that is the villain of the game rather than the evil team.
Oh
I
yeah,
still
true.
remember to this day the cutscene where Lusamine is just like begging on the ground, telling the kids, "Run away! That thing's a monster," and that thing is definitely a monster.
Oh yeah.
It psychic type.
Yep, pure
The
psychic.
regular base form is kind
It's
of
it's I
okay.
love the normal base form because it's the
Yeah,
idea is that it blocks out light
yeah. And
itself.
then you get to Dawn Wings and Duskmane Necrozma, and
Yep.
then of
And then
course has
final
its
form.
Ultra form.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. To this day,
They have
even though
not attempted this again.
yeah, that and I only played through the game once, but I could not beat Ultra Necrozma in the Ultra games. I had to bring over a Rayquaza from Pokemon Bank and
Mhm.
gamble with it listening to me because it was level 100,
Yeah.
and so it's just such a
It's
cool
such a
design,
crazy
cool
cool
basis.
Pokemon. And it also is technically an Ultra Beast, I believe. So
It is,
it's
yeah.
got that going for it. So the thing about Eternatus, I did say that they have not attempted this again. And the reason why I say that is because Necrozma is a super juiced Pokemon that you have to take on solo. And
Yes.
everybody and their mother has lost to it. While Eternatus, you have your team. It's got a different narrative purpose. And it kind of again, like the thing about Gen 7 through 9 is that they start doing the subversive thing where the legendaries aren't all that legendary. And it's not they stop doing the whole world end stuff with Gen 6.
Hmm.
But in return, we get richer narratives, and that's why Zacian and Zamazenta, I think, also arguably belong in A+.
Yeah, I would agree. Do you know? I forgot. What are those stupid idiot names with the sword and shield haircuts? I forgot their names.
Yes, it's not C.
Sword Word or freaking
Yeah,
Shieldbert. Shield.
Shieldbert. Yeah.
God Almighty. Um, yeah. Were they supposed to be relatives of the kings that used the Pokemon
Yep.
or whatever?
Yep. Yep.
Ugh.
Galar is
Yeah.
a weird one for sure, but the thing about Zacian and Zamazenta is that they are the only legendaries in game that you meet at the beginning, aside from Arceus and Legends Arceus, which doesn't really count.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and throughout the entire game, you know that they're there. You know, you sort of know what they represent, and you follow their history in a very refreshing way. For Kyogre and Groudon, it's because they're super powerful and people want to obtain them. With Dialga and Palkia, it's because they're super powerful and someone wants to obtain them. With Reshiram and Zekrom, it's because they're super powerful and someone wants to obtain them. With Xerneas and Yveltal, it's because they're super powerful and someone wants to obtain them. With Sol Galeo and Lunala, I mean, it's just a little different, right? From that point onwards,
Mm-hmm.
Zacian and Zamazenta are refreshing because you follow their history as a historian. What's her name? Sophia, I believe it was That's her name, right? Sophia, Leon's rival.
Oh, Leon's rival, you
That
said?
was his rival.
Uh, the only one I know of is Raihan.
No, 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 no. The girl, orange hair, becomes a professor at the end of the game.
Oh, Sonia?
Sonia, there we go. You guys have to forgive us. We haven't started our replay of Gen
Yeah.
8 just yet, and it's like 12:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, she helps you decipher and a lot of the fun narrative because they didn't really execute everything in Sword and Shield to the best of its ability. There is a lot of subtle things that, if built up on, makes Gen 8 absolutely amazing. But from what we get in the games themselves, the whole like darkest day type stuff with Eternatus and the fact that these two Pokemon put their lives on the line to defeat him when they're otherwise insignificant is really cool. The
Hmm.
designs are very rich. I'm not going to put them any higher than where they are, despite the fact they have really cool designs because they are kind of forgettable. They blend into each other, but they also have that cool, unique new aspect about the game where they are similar in design instead of just um polar opposites of each other, and they
Yeah.
work together. They aren't
Yes.
oppositions. They aren't opponents at all. They are guardians, and they are pure guardians, and that's all that they stand for. And I think that's really cool. Eternatus, I think we could put under Necrozma
Yeah, that's a good spot.
because Eternatus is just Necrozma too. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's got a sicker design, an even crazier final form, and it's as malicious, if not more malicious, in some aspects. I'm not gonna get too deep into it because obviously I'm not a living textbook for Eternatus, but the way that it plays out is very, very different. Necrozma is not actually a part of the core game for the Gen 7 games. And even though it's like the final boss of Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, in the first game, your first impression of this Pokemon is just a post game legendary. But Eternatus is the main course for the game. And everything that's going on with the game, all the concerns, all the all the lore that builds from Zacian and Zamazenta, so that they can fight this thing. It's pretty cool. I'm fine putting it over Ho-Oh, just because, just like Ho-Oh, sort of the whole point of the conflicts in Gen 8 lead to Zacian, Zamazenta, and Eternatus.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Kubfu is a legendary Pokemon.
Correct.
Calyrex is a legendary Pokemon.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, none of these Pokemon are mythicals. Where's Regieleki? Get up here. There we go. So we're gonna go through the. Okay, honestly, Gen 8 legendaries are kind of boring.
Yeah.
Kubfu is a weird DLC add-on. I think the Pokemon's cool, but I think where Gen 9, if you look at the Gen 9 legendaries from the DLC, they succeed in a much better way because the actual narratives behind these Pokemon are a lot more face forward. Kubfu is just some kid that wants to become strong. And it's not even an exclusive Pokemon. There's many different
Yeah.
Kubfus
I'm
out
pretty
there.
sure on the island, once you get through the dojo, they just give you a Cubfu.
Yeah.
And then you take it to either of the towers and turn it into whatever Urshifu form you want.
Yeah. I'm
So
fine
it's not even
putting
really
it
special.
in D above. Oh, wait,
The
sorry.
genies?
I'm going to put it in C above the Jins because
Okay.
the Jins are just kind of trash. Same to Urshifu. Don't care what form you pick. It's the same Pokemon. It's not that interesting. We literally just talked about the legendaries for like the past couple gens and the Gen 9 legendary. Like, come on. If you like this Pokemon, it's purely on you. It has nothing to do with what it actually represents.
Yeah.
Same thing with the added to you got like Middle
Reggies.
Ages and like I guess like a future with
I guess, yeah.
with Regieleki. Now Regieleki is my favorite legendary. Um I think design wise they're really cool. They represent different periods in time than the initial three Reggies and Regigigas. Um, I think I'm just gonna leave them right there in B. What do you think? Do we need to put them higher or lower?
Yeah, I think B, kind of like, yeah, behind Zygarde. Yeah, that's a good spot for him.
I think that they definitely stand out. They're the highlights of the Gen 8 legendaries for sure. I think most people were excited to pick their favorite of the two and then get it.
Mm-hmm.
Then we
I
have
picked Reggie Draco. I love Reggie Draco.
then we have
Yeah,
Glacier, Spectre, and Calyrex. Calyrex is an A plus for us, right?
maybe. I
This
don't
Pokemon
really
is
care.
this Pokemon is my sleep paralysis, Steven.
The thing is, on its own, it's completely worthless.
Yeah.
It is only good whenever you get it on top of its steeds, and the steeds by themselves are worthless.
Yeah, and
They're
Calyrex only
good.
represents the monarchy type deal that they were doing. Were they even doing that in Sword and Shield? That was important in Sword and Shield, right? Like kings and stuff.
Yeah, because like I said, we talk about Swordbird and friggin' goofball over there.
Yeah.
They were the
I was king without A
Calyrex is
plus.
known in legend as the king that ruled over Galar in ancient times. There's
Right.
no way to distinguish
So
it
so
anymore.
it's got like that build up to what Terrapagos ends up becoming. But like just on its own, Calyrex is a menace of a Pokemon.
Oh yeah.
Not much to say about its competitive usage because we don't usually pick legendaries, and I don't even know if this thing was definitely tier dupers, right? Because it had quote unquote two
Oh yeah,
abilities.
Calyrex Shadow is, along with like Zacian, one of the strongest Pokemon ever because you get Calyx's ability is Unnerve, which
Yeah,
is
I
fine,
mean, it
but like I
covers
said, but the as
as
one
one.
ability
Yeah,
that gets you that, and basically there's like the attack boost or special attack boost based on the form on kill, and Astral Barrage is a crazy move.
hmm
It's like base 130 power spread move. Where is it? Yeah, on its own it has base 80 stats except for its base 100 HP.
you know how they
And
joked about Pokemon Gun?
yeah,
I would have loved if they had a third version of the Gen 8 games with Calyrex at the center. And then you have like you know what the missed opportunity was? They
what's
should have
that?
just had this motherfucker ride Zacian and Zamazenta.
That would be kind of fun. I wonder what it was.
You know how iconic Calyrex would be if it turns out that this was the Pokemon that was the master over Zacian and Zamazenta at one point in time before the events of the history that we learned about in Sword and Shield.
Yeah, that would be pretty interesting.
That would be insane. But Glacier and Spectre, I fully respect as additions because again, it doesn't necessarily fit into what we have for now with Station Summon Center. But if we said like, oh, instead of being a steed, it needed to ride like a mighty beast into battle and whatnot. That would be Station
Yeah, the
Summon Center.
King of Bountiful Harvest. That's right. That's what it was called as well.
Yes. So yeah, I this Pokemon's cool. It's a really cool Pokemon. It's honestly underrated on its own, underrated because of just its significance in the short story. But there's definitely a missed opportunity there. Let me know, guys, if I was missing the point with Calyrex when I was talking about Zacian and Zamazenta being involved. I know that we've had tons of like you fuse Legend 1 with Legend 2 over the years. We've had a little bit of that already. But yeah, I think Calyrex would have fit in pretty well with the themes of Galar. The idea of like a history that needs to be explored and a future that needs protecting, all that kind of stuff. I think that's really cool. I think it's what makes Gen 8 a little bit refreshing, but they also could have done a lot more. Also, let me know if you guys want us to go in depth with any of the legends. Maybe we can make a series on that as well,
That'd be pretty cool.
where we like fully deep dive, full information, look at legendaries, regions, all that stuff. We'd be happy to do it. Now we are down to the weirdest the weirdest outcome of Legends. We have the four ruin Pokemon, and we have the Loyal Trio and Ogrepon. That's all we have left. Again, we are not counting Koraidon Miraidon. They are Paradox Mons. They are not the actual lore accurate, history accurate deities of Paldea that Terapagos is. They take a massive backseat and they really only matter for the events of the game, which is completely different than the rest of the legends for sure. But I think that there's a lot of disqualifying factors to it as well. But in terms of the game itself, I think it's a very refreshing take. I completely welcomed it when they told us all we were going to do is ride on the legendary Pokemon. It makes way more sense when you demote them in prevalence and you don't sort of put them in this massive pool of Pokemon that are important to the regions that they're a part of and the world at large. So we have Chiyu, Chang Wu. I'm probably gonna butcher. You're gonna have to copy me.
We have Wo Chien, who is the grassy snail.
Wo
Chien
Chen,
Pao is
Chen
the
Pao.
ice. Ting Lu
What I said
and Chi
Chiyu. Yeah, I definitely said that one wrong.
Yeah.
All right, which one's your favorite?
Chi is my favorite of the bunch. And looking at their history, they have very interesting lore. I
Yeah, go ahead and
really
read out
do like
Chiyu's
it.
lore for us because I know that they're
So it
all
says
tied to different relics.
the four treasures of ruin were once normal objects originated from a distant land in the east of Paldea. These four treasures were the wooden tablets, which is Wo Chien,
Yep.
the sword is Chien Pao, a vessel, which was Tinglu, and a set of beads, which is
Which
Chiyu.
is Chiyu,
As
the,
time
everyone's favorite.
passed, each of the treasures were corrupted by negative human emotions, grudge, hatred, fear, and
They're
envy,
chemis
respectively,
from Kamen Rider Godchard. Let's go.
gaining life and cladding themselves in dead leaves, snow and ice, dirt and rocks, and fire, creating their bodies. Which is another thing, is like the Pokemon itself are the tablets. The tablets are
Yep.
cursed,
Yep.
and then they made the forms themselves.
Yep.
So I think that's really cool how like the ancient cursed sword just manifested a saber tiger, and
Yeah.
then that's how it moved. It's
That's how
very
it
cool.
interacts with the physical world.
And
All
they all it was let's say one day in the ancient times of Paldea, a merchant came from the east in possession of the treasures, traveled to the Paldea region and presented them to the Paldean king, because the king was very greedy. He loved to acquire treasures, and then it was kind of like a trap. It says the king's greed, however, eventually caused the four Pokemon to awaken, because they are based off like negative emotions, and one of them being, well, we have grudge, hatred, fear, and envy, and then the greed caused them to awaken and bring ruin and destruction to the land. So it's just, these are some of the coolest basis of legendaries you could have out there. I
right,
love these
for
Pokemon.
sure. So where do we want to put them? Do we want to put them A plus, A, or B? I think they deserve one of those.
Maybe, if anything, maybe kind of around the Kirim level if we wanted to do that. But if an A plus, maybe I could put them like, maybe, I don't know if I can put them above anything in A plus tier. So
Yeah, because again, a big thing about Gens 8 and 9 is history. History is
hmm
like a very important part for those two regions. For example, if you played Pokemon Scarlet, it's very cut and dry that way. But even if you played Pokemon Violet, a lot of the future type stuff you could also sort of count as history. You have Rhyfort, a teacher that really sends you off to collect these ancient treasures. And treasure is a massive theme, obviously, for Gen 9. It's just that it's not expressed in a way that is relevant to the rest of what's going on. They're not connected to Terapagos in any way. They're not connected to the Paradox Mons in any way. And that's pretty good, in my opinion. I think that's pretty good. What do you think? They're, they're,
yeah,
they're sort of their own fresh lore that you have to sort of work with.
it's completely separate from your treasure hunt journey
Yeah,
in the
so
game.
yeah, similar
So
to the other legends
yeah,
we're gonna talk
and it's
about.
just like what yeah, like you said, the history teacher is like, oh, these Pokemon, and then like the post game, she tells you about them, and you have to, what are the, just like pick up the stakes out of the ground. I don't know
Yeah,
what their lore significant is. Oh, those are
the
that's
seals.
what's containing them. Yeah,
Yeah,
the sea. Yeah, you're right. So
which it's
yeah,
very irresponsible for our teacher to send us to do that in the first place, but that's beside the
yeah,
point. So I'm putting them above Calyrex. I'm gonna keep
okay,
them away from some of these other like more prevalent Pokemon. And obviously, Sovali we kind of bumped up a bit. Darkrai we have bumped up a bit for other reasons, but especially the Weather Trio, the Yin Yang Legends, Lunala. These Pokemon are a lot more prevalent in the story, so we're gonna want to drop a little lower, but they are also main game instead of DLC. So if we wanted to say it that way, then that's why we put it above Calyrex. And then finally, we have the. I'm gonna put them in F just to get them up here. We have the Loyal Trio and Ogerpon. Now, Ogerpon, I'm pretty sure you want an A plus, right?
yeah. I feel bad because I lied to viewers when I said Yveltal is my favorite legendary. It's actually Ogerpon.
It's actually Ogerpon,
Because once we threw it on the list, we're like, oh yeah, because it wasn't on the list. Ogerpon's fantastic.
right?
Love its design. I love its backstory. It's it's a very, it's like you do the story and everyone talks about, oh, the terrifying ogre, this, that, and the other, and
Right.
then you actually meet it and you learn really what the Loyal Three were about. And
And who she is, because
yeah,
this is a legendary with an actual gender.
yes,
I believe. And yeah, so the thing that we really like about Gen 9, guys, and we'll talk about this in our review of the games, we're going to finish the main game by the end of the month at this rate. And we'll go into depth about how we feel about the DLCs, but just to sort of surmise what the talking point is for us when it comes to Ogerpon, they did a very great job of making the DLC its own thing, while also leaving more room out for the second DLC. Obviously, the pricing, you just bought one DLC, you got two parts. It all connects through the characters and sort of like the connection from Tropicos being a really big part of Paldea as a whole. But the thing about Ogerpon being its own self, what's the word? Oh, I can't think of the word. It's its own exclusive story. And
Yeah,
Petulant, the
that's for
mythical
sure.
Pokemon, obviously we can't put Petra up on here. In case you guys want to know, we would put an F tier because of how evil it is. But the thing about the Loyal Three is that they were corrupted by Petulant, which was another Pokemon that did have its own motives and its own sort of reason behind why it did what it did. It caused a lot of problems in the long run, and Ogerpon was later victimized for its role in the events of the DLC story. A lot of people complain that we shouldn't have gotten a lot of that stuff explained in a YouTube video, but I feel like the addition of the YouTube video, the narration, all that stuff, instead of making it a cutscene in the traditional Pokemon format, people would also argue that we should have just had voice acting in Pokemon, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
The thing about Ogerpon at the end of the day is that it's a really good addition to the game. It's something rich, something exclusive to Kitakami, and it's obviously a fan favorite. People love this thing to death. And I think that they did a really good job of making the Gen 9 legendaries overall have their own unique lore that you could very easily trace, similar to like Gen 3. I think Gen 3 with the Reggies makes a lot of sense. Gen 2 with the legendary beasts, like they did a really good job of making sure that every single legendary had its place, had its own story, had its own origin, and even fits into the themes of treasure because as Darren said before, the ruinous Pokemon are in themselves treasures, ancient treasures. Terrapagos is the hidden treasure of Area Zero. Ogerpon has its unique masks that is its own treasure, and the Loyal Three have their companionship as well as the masks as well as the treasure that they fought over. So we put Pheasantipity above the other two. We're gonna start Pheasantipity off in A tier. We're gonna start Okidogi in C tier, and then we're gonna put uh Monkey Dory in D tier.
Monkey Dory.
All right, so Dan, where do you want to put Pheasantipity? Do you think it's fine there? Do you want? I think it's fine here. Actually, I just looked at it. We could put it above Calyrex if you want, but it doesn't hold any sort of significance on its own. Mostly just design wise. It's a part of a bigger narrative. So I'm
Hmm.
fine with it being there. Now I know you hate Monkey Dory, but Monkey Dory has the most crazy power of the three.
Yeah. Look, I'm looking more into the stories. I don't hate it, but they each got their own blessing from the toxic chain,
Yep,
whether it be Okidoji getting stronger, Monkey Dory with the psychic powers,
and then
and Pheasantipity
Pheasantipity.
got the says beauty, so I guess it said it had like some, what was it? Short, dull feathers. All living in a faraway land. Petulant comes, and we talked about Petulant
Yep.
already. Just
Yep. Comes and recruits them for its journey to get the masks for
Mhm.
it's basically its parents. And
Yeah.
the sad reality is that because of Petulant's nature, this is a big like My Hero Academia thing that I really have loved over the past couple of years. Where it's like because of just how it is as a Pokemon, it actually ended up causing a lot more harm than good. And Petulant very memorable mythical because of just how big of a role it has to play in its own story as compared to like up in like Keldeo tier in terms of like
Hmm.
this Pokemon you understand what it's about. There's enough material out there for you to really grab onto it really easily and understand why it exists, what its purpose is, what its goals are. So yeah, I think we got them all. So this is our Pokemon legendaries tier list, only legendaries. Let us know if you want us to do the mythicals. Next, we will this year. Speaking broadly, we're gonna do another Masters EX tier list. The problem, guys, is while we can just sit here and discuss for hours, there's a lot of musical stuff involved with the EX stuff, and so we really have to, be like full energy for that. We have to.
Yeah, and as time's gone on, since it
They
has been
add
a
more.
bit,
They add so
they
much
have a
more.
lot. My this is a little sneak peek. My playlist just hit 100 songs the other day when they dropped Neo Champion Silver.
And we will
So
do literally as long as it takes. We're going to do it all in one take at once. So it'll just be like a big thing for those of you that enjoy it. I know it's a really big draw to the channel is the tier lists, and this is something we do enjoy doing. But we also really love opening packs and talking about the anime. The anime is super, super good. I'm going to remind you guys again. The first season, first 12 episodes are out on Netflix. Screw you, Netflix, for robbing us of weekly. Because I would love for people to get deep into that first arc. It gets way better than just the first 12 episodes. So again, this we do have Mewtwo up there in front, but honestly, opinion wise, it's not nearly as great as the rest of A plus tier. But we're gonna leave it there. Let us know, guys, if if there's anything that you would have preferred us look at in terms of any legendary. And until the next tier list, probably next week or this weekend, we hope you take care. All right, say bye, Darren.
goodbye.